The following program is sponsored by Prodigal Ministries and is supported by the prayers and financial gifts by wonderful friends like you. Hello and welcome back to The Prodigal. Your host is Neal Thomas, and every week we get to open up the Bible and just dive right in. So if you've been looking for a place to land with all your baggage, well, you've come to the right place. Pull up a chair, prop up your feet, and hang out with us.
Hello, welcome to The Prodigal. My name is Neal Thomas, and today I have a really good friend. Her name is Dorothy, and I really wanted to talk to her because she is a Jewish woman, and I wanted to find out a little bit more about the Jewish faith. Welcome, Dorothy. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
All right, I'm doing good. Thank you. So we're in a recording studio, and you said you've been in a recording studio before?
Well, not exactly. But
Okay.
I have no trouble talking on mics.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're here. I really enjoy spending time with you. I've known you for a couple of years, I think.
Yeah.
And you told me you're Jewish. I grew up in a Catholic home. When I was 18, I was really disillusioned with the Catholic Church and the Catholic faith, I guess you could call it. I drove a taxi cab for about maybe 20 years. Can you believe that? In Dallas, Texas. And I would talk to a lot of people that would come into the airport, people coming in from international flights, different parts of the world. I met different types of religious people. You have the Buddhist people and the Hindus and the Muslims and Christians, a lot of Christians in this country, of course. But I haven't really spent much time with Jewish people, so I don't really know much about the Jewish faith. And I thought, why don't we pick your brain if you're okay with that?
I'm fine with that. I'll do my best.
All right. What is the story of your first or last name?
Well, I was named after my mother, so that wasn't exciting. But my last name, Greenzang, that was from my husband, and his family came over from Odessa, Russia, different places. And when they landed at Ellis Island, they wrote down that name.
Okay.
And as the first 10 years, I verified this on the censuses, the national census, that they tried different names or variations of it, and finally landed in about 1920 on Greenzang.
Okay.
But it was not uncommon for Jewish people to assimilate into the society by changing their names to make them more, quote-unquote, Americanized.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yes.
Now, what were the house and neighborhoods like where you grew up?
Okay. Well, I did not have a typical Jewish upbringing. I come from a mixed family, and I stayed with my Christian side for the first many years of my life and was exposed to Christianity, Presbyterianism.
Okay.
But I pretty much rejected it once I found out about it. It wasn't very forgiving.
What was not forgiving?
Oh, well, a perfect example. I remember being in Sunday school maybe when I was 10.
Okay.
And I asked my nice Sunday school teacher, what happens to all the Chinese people who don't hear about Jesus? Do they all go to hell? And the answer I got was, Dorothy, go ask your mother.
Go ask your mother.
Go ask your mother. So
Was it a nun that said that to you?
No, this Presbyterians don't have nuns.
Okay.
My grandparents were from Scotland, so they...
Well, who told you to go ask your mother? Was it a priest?
No, it was the Sunday school teacher.
So they didn't have the answer,
They don't have an
basically.
answer to that because there is no answer
Who
to that.
knows? Who knows?
Well,
what
the
happens?
answer to that is yes, they all go to hell, but they didn't want to tell me that.
Well, that's what we're taught.
So when I would go home from Sunday school, my grandfather, who was I swear he must have been a communist, seriously, he would ask me, Dorothy, what did you learn in Sunday school today? And I would tell him, and he'd just go, and then he would tell me, don't believe that. And he gave me an early critical thinking, because if I'm not trusting what they're saying in Sunday school, because my grandfather, who I love dearly, told me it wasn't true, I'm going to think for myself a little.
Sure.
So I did think for myself quite a bit and got into a lot of trouble for that. But yes.
They want you obedient.
Oh, I was not an obedient child.
So what was the house like in the neighborhood where you grew up? And who lived with and around you? I mean, were they Jewish people as well?
No, there were very few Jewish people,
Okay.
Mostly the merchants, so I knew them, but I did not have any contact with them. Being raised by my grandparents, with my very Presbyterian grandmother, In a Catholic neighborhood, by the way, which I was told on a daily basis I was going to hell because I wasn't Catholic, made me kind of soured on all Christian religions because,
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, it wasn't.
And here you are,
yes,
a really good friend of mine.
actually, yes.
And you even come and visit the church that I go to.
I do. It's
Yeah.
I went there the last time. It was very interesting, and I plan on going again.
And you said the people were really nice to you.
The people are very
Yeah.
nice, and this is the kind of people if I had been exposed to when I was younger, I might still be considered. I could be a Christian, but I had some bad experiences, and
I
you
can
know,
vouch for that. I've had some bad experiences as well
even as a child and as an adult.
as a child. Not as an adult so much.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was kicked out of a church once because my beliefs were not matching up with their beliefs.
Yeah,
Of course.
that's hard. That's
Yeah.
hard. So I grew up in this Irish neighborhood, and
And now what area?
this
what-
always I'm sorry,
New York.
New Jersey,
New Jersey.
northern New Jersey.
Can anything good come from New Jersey?
Oh, please don't get me started. I have a whole list
Of what?
of things that are good in New Jersey.
Do you remember? I don't know if you remember in the Bible, they were telling Philip, I think, or Nathaniel, we think we found the Lord. He's in Nazareth. And what did Philip say? Or Nathaniel? He said, can anything good come from Nazareth?
See, that's New Testament. I don't do New Testament.
Well, see, that's what I say about New Jersey. Can anything good come from New Jersey?
Absolutely. It's a wonderful place. It was a great place to grow up.
Now, can I ask you more about the religious side of the Jewish faith?
Oh, absolutely.
So, what is a Jewish rabbi? Do you know?
A Jewish rabbi, the word rabbi really means teacher.
Okay.
Unlike churches that have ministers or priests, rabbi doesn't have that. Rabbis don't function that same way. They'll lead ceremonies. We have Sabbath ceremonies. We have bar mitzvahs. The rabbis are always involved in that. But mostly their primary source is to be a teacher.
You said Sabbath.
Sabbath.
You know,
Friday night to
Christians, a lot of Christians know what a Sabbath is, but some Christians don't. Could you tell us a little bit about what a Sabbath is? Like I know it has something to do with the sun setting, right?
Saturday. Well, let me explain.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. In the beginning, God created the world. He took 6 days, and on the seventh day, He rested.
Okay.
You might remember that from Genesis.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that we'll agree on. On the seventh day, when God rested, He designated that as the Sabbath. And Jews, from the sunset on Friday night till sunset on Saturday night, they treat that as a time of rest and study and
Okay, prayer maybe.
prayer. Oh, definitely prayer.
Do you guys sing in the Jewish
Oh, yeah.
faith?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
We have very beautiful music and we have cantors. So in a service, you can have a rabbi, hopefully a cantor too, and the cantor will lead all the singing, and we do
Okay.
a lot of singing.
So the people in the seats
will
will sing as well. Okay.
Yes,
Now, when you say,
and they're really the songs are really prayers.
oh,
Okay.
that's interesting.
Sorry to interrupt the show, but let me just jump right in here to tell you about how you can contact us here at The Prodigal. You can always call us day or night at 214-446-3744. And of course, you can always visit our website, theprodigalshow.com, and you can reach us by sending a message to theprodigalshow@gmail.com. All right, let's get back onto the show with Neal Thomas.
All right, and we're back. I'm with Dorothy Greenzang, and she is a Jewish woman that I really wanted to interview and find out a little bit more about the Jewish faith. Welcome back, Dorothy.
Thank you.
When you talk about the Sabbath starting at the sundown,
Sundown.
right, is it like when you can't see the sun anymore, or is it like right when the sun touches the horizon?
Oh,
or?
please, I have to be a rabbi to do that. The rabbi sends out a notice. It tells me
And
what
he
time.
tells you
Yeah,
what time.
What time, you know.
And I know the times change.
oh,
'cause,
yes,
You know,
they
in the
change all the
wintertime, the
time.
sun sets
Yeah.
earlier than the summertime.
Yes.
But it's still about a 24-hour period
It is
of
a
time
24-hour
that
period,
you
yes.
take a day of
And,
rest.
and maybe a little bit more, maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
What is
more.
the stuff that you can't do during the Sabbath? Like, I know some people say you can't, cook a meal. Is that correct?
Well, there are a lot of limitations, and you have to work around them. You can't drive a car. You can't carry anything.
You can't carry like a bag of groceries?
No, you can't go grocery shopping. No,
Wow.
you can't. There's no commerce, so you can't go grocery shopping. You're supposed to basically attend religious services and sit in your house and study.
Can you take a shower?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can take a shower.
Yeah. Can't dig a hole, though.
No, you can't dig a hole. And
That would be work. Well, okay, so what if you're driving around? Well, I mean, let's say you're driving and you forgot or something. The sun is setting, and you're all of a sudden remembering this is the Sabbath, and do you just drive home and just say, okay, well, forgive me, God, that I drove this last half hour? Or what if you're almost home and you get a flat tire? What do you do then?
Well,
Or
that
what-
would depend on your religious point of view.
Okay. What if you're very staunch and you're very...
All right, well, let me explain that
All right, go ahead.
first. And
That's Orthodox?
well, Orthodox, conservative, or Reform. Reform, you keep driving till you got home. You might even stop at the grocery store.
Do you pray and say, thank you, Father, or God, or thank you, God, or forgive me for disobeying?
No.
Okay.
If
So
you were conservative, it could go either way. You could stop the car, get out of the car, but most likely if you're...
But you couldn't walk.
Yeah, you can walk.
Oh, I thought they couldn't walk on the Sabbath.
Well, no, you have to walk on the Sabbath. How are you going to get to religious services?
Take the horse.
Take the horse. I don't think you can. No,
Ride a horse.
No, you can't take the horse because the horse is during Sabbath. The horse can't work either.
The horse cannot work either.
Yeah, the only thing
Okay,
I think is
wow.
the cow. You can milk the cow only because you killed the cow if you don't milk it.
Yeah. What I really want to say is that's very enjoyable to hear that you really care about your animals, that you give them a day of
absolutely.
rest.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't make them work 7 days a week.
No.
And
So
it-
let me go back to
Go ahead,
let me
go
go
ahead.
back to Orthodox.
Okay.
Now, Orthodox are they're the most traditionalists. They follow every rule, the 617 daily commandments.
617?
Yeah, well, so. But they try their best. But in the
Well,
case...
I mean, you started with 10 commandments.
oh, no.
Where did
no.
the others come from?
The 617 are just rules from the Bible. It has to do with keeping kosher and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff. And as a woman, I don't have to do that because women in the Jewish faith are closer to God than men. So men have a lot more to do than women.
That's interesting.
We bring life.
Women, well, think about it. You have less women in prisons, right? So I think, to be honest, women have a lot more compassion, a lot more love.
I like to think that.
I think
I've
it
met
is.
some pretty bad women, though.
I've met a lot of horrible men. That's all.
Well, we have to. But back to the Orthodox, thank you. The Orthodox will follow all the rules. They'll keep kosher. And for them to be stranded, a flat tire, is they might just walk to wherever they have to go.
Isn't there a limit to how much miles you can walk?
No.
Oh.
Not that I've ever heard of.
Oh, I've heard it.
But okay, so one of these things, like in New York and Israel, they have Orthodox communities, and they all live around each other. And one of the things they do, and this sounds so strange to people, and I just found this out, they have a wire that goes around the community. It's very high up, and there's a person who's in charge of keeping the wire intact.
how
And
high up is it?
Oh, I don't know, 30 feet.
Okay.
But it's all around. And so when it does that, it makes it into one place. So they can walk around. They can't drive, but they can walk around
Okay.
that place and do things they have to do in that enclosure. So,
Now,
Yes.
the Sabbath includes things like a year. I mean, there's a certain period of time where, let's say, for an example, you have some land
oh yeah,
and you grow crops.
that's a sabbatical year. That's every 7 years. Supposed to give away your slaves or free your people.
What about the crops? You can't grow on your land. You can grow for 6 years. You can grow your crops for 6
Then the
years.
seventh year it goes fallow, and then you can do it again.
And then the seventh year, you
Yeah.
let your land rest.
Yes.
What happens to the land when it's resting? Do you know?
Well, it builds up nutrients again, I suppose, and makes for better land.
All the bugs are
everything gets
digging holes
Yes.
and
Yes,
leaving their trace elements or whatever.
I suppose. Not that I'm a farmer, so I don't know. I'm a city girl.
When you are tithing, do you guys tithe at all? It
Not
talks
in-
about in the Bible you give 10%. And do you remember when Jesus was talking to the Pharisees?
No.
He said, okay, hold on. He said that you tithe on your herbs. You remember? He said you tithe on your herbs, but you're not very kind to the people. You're not loving to the people. So you're doing one thing that God is asking, but you're not doing the other thing, which is compassion and love. Tell us about the tithing aspect of.
Oh,
of
you'll love this. We don't. We don't tithe. I don't even know that. I understand the concept.
10%.
10%. No, no. That's for farmers. People in Israel back in the olden times. Judaism has morphed because it had to survive, but we are very big on charity.
Okay.
We do a lot of charity. When we do charity, that's what we're obligated to do to show our love of God is charity. And charity can be, there's different. They even have levels of charity.
Okay.
So when, for instance, I'll just start with some minor ones, like you're hungry, I give you food, I gave you food. And all the way up to you're hungry, I don't know that you're hungry, you don't know that I gave food. So it's totally anonymous. So there's different degrees. And the fact that when we give charity that we don't know who it's going to is the highest form.
Okay.
And they don't know who they're getting from because there's no obligation that way. We don't feel, as humans, we won't feel like, oh, I gave you money and you have to like me better or whatever. But
Right.
we give a lot of charity. We're encouraged to give charity. For every holiday we give charity.
How does the temple or the synagogue,
Well,
how does it pay its bills? And in the Christian churches, we have a tithing, we have an offering opportunity, and I'm under the assumption that a lot of what is given in the church services are used for putting, turning the lights on and paying for the advertising or the phone or the rent or the mortgage. How does the synagogue, the Jewish synagogue, pay their bills?
First of all, the synagogue would not collect money during services because we're prohibited from carrying money during the Sabbath.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Okay.
That's a good one. Thank you.
A good
Yeah.
way to question to ask. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I never have heard that before. Thank you.
One of the things they do as Jews is that when you join a synagogue, you do join and you pay. You pay the building fund, you pay dues, and that kind of takes the place, I think, of tithing. But that's separate from all the charity we have to do.
I would imagine that they look at your income and they say, well, you're only a busboy or a cab driver, or now this guy's a doctor, so we're going to ask for more. Is that correct? Or do you think that it's equal across the board?
That depends on the facility. We don't have a central organization. We don't have the Catholics have the Pope and the
Sure.
Vatican tells them, and I don't know about other ones. The Mormons have the church in Salt Lake.
The bishops and
The
things.
bishop, well, yes, but those are volunteers too. So I don't know that they have. It would depend on where you were and what their rules were. I mean, I just was reading online that I could join a synagogue in New York
Okay.
online to be streamed, but I had to pay, a certain amount. It was quite like $600 a year. And I thought that was a little extensive for what I was going to use it for. I'd rather give my $600 to the local people.
Right.
The only exception to that is the Chabads. The Chabads are
Chabad.
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 Chabad. Chabad. The Chabads are a very religious sect that came out of Central Europe and are very orthodox. But their idea is that when they disperse people throughout the world, there's Chabads everywhere. And they go stay in the community, become part of the community, but they're not looking for you. They're looking for us.
You said they're not looking for me.
They're not looking for Christians. They're not trying to make Christians
They're
into
not trying
Jews.
to convert Christians
Nope, no
or
conversion.
any other people.
Nope. They're looking to find the lost Jews.
And punish you guys.
No, they love us. They don't want to punish us.
Oh, well, the way you said it was like they're looking for us, like the
Oh, they are
cops.
looking-
The cops
no,
are looking
no,
for us.
they're
We
lo-
broke the law.
No, they're trying to find us and bring us back into the fold.
Okay. How do they meet you? On the phone or in the internet, or do they just come knock on your door?
Well,
And then they say, "How dare you? You haven't been to the
oh
synagogue."
my Lord, no.
Okay.
Good Lord, no. They're happy people. They're just wonderful people. I get invitations on a weekly basis for activities and things to do.
Maybe I'm just a negative person.
You
I don't know.
could-
I apologize.
No, it's funny. This is a funny.
To be honest, I really don't know anything about the Jewish faith, so this is
Okay.
really eye-opening to me.
Well, let me put it this way. In the town we're in, there are two religious groups of Jews. There is a synagogue, which is very, I've been told it's very liberal, more liberal. And then there's the Chabads. And I like the Chabads better because I think they have real Jewish religion. I don't like the politics of the rabbi at the other place. And I just don't fit in with that. And even though technically I'm probably more observant like them, I
Yeah.
would probably fit in that way. I just don't like them. I don't feel comfortable in their services. And where the Chabads, which are totally foreign to me because they're speaking Hebrew, and
Okay.
and the women sit in separate places, but I don't really, I don't really understand what's going on there half the time. But I feel more connected to them because I like the way they view life, so to
Okay.
speak. Yes. Okay. So the Chabads here in town they have outreach for children. They have Sunday school. They have activities. They have summer camp. They have all sorts of things that are used to draw the families in.
Now, you said Sunday school. Is it
Well-
on Sunday, or is it more like a Sabbath school?
No, I don't think. No, I don't think they do it on Sabbath. They have services for kids on Sabbath.
What
but-
happens on Sunday with your synagogue? Are they open? Are they doing any kind of services or anything like that on a
Well,
Sunday?
it depends on whether it's a holiday. But if it's just a standard Sabbath, no. Other than maybe a Sunday school, I
Yeah.
call it Sunday school because I'm
That's
just it's a
what you
habit.
were
I would.
raised,
It's a
right.
religious school. There you go.
I've heard some places call their schooling for the children Sabbath school, even though it's a Christian school or a
Yes.
Christian church. I do want to ask you a question. We call the Jewish people Jewish, or we call them Jews.
Yes.
And a Jew sounds, when you call someone, when I say, oh, he's a Jew, it sounds kind of derogatory. Would you say, if I said that person is Jewish or that person is a Jew, is that the same thing, or is one more derogatory?
It depends on your attitude.
Oh, just a normal,
No, I would be-
if
you
I'm
could
just
use-
saying, hey, the weatherman, I heard he's a
Jewish.
Jew.
He's Jewish,
Or he's a
Jew.
Jewish
That's
person.
fine.
So
That's fine.
either way is not
Yeah.
insulting.
No,
Okay.
I mean, there's not to say there isn't insults, but
Right.
usually with a something in front of it.
We hear a lot about the holidays, and we're going to touch on that in a second. But can you give me the bottom line of what Jewish people believe? Can you put it in a nutshell, if you will?
In a nutshell, we believe in one God. That's it.
Amen. That's it.
That's it. One God. Nobody else.
Okay. What about Moses?
He's a
What do you-
prophet. He's not a
okay.
God.
No, I didn't
He
think he was
talked
a
to
god.
God.
Yeah,
He
I
talked
didn't,
to God.
I didn't think he was God, but the
talked
Jewish
to-
people think he's
he
a
talked to
prophet.
God.
Was he one of the greatest prophets that lived?
Oh,
or-
I'd say so.
Okay.
I'd say so.
Okay. What else can you say about the Jewish faith in a nutshell?
I don't know what else you want to say other than the belief in one God,
If you were- if-
which was a big thing back in the day because think about the historical context, where other people were worshiping many idols. To have the concept of one God without an idol was revolutionary. He's a total creator,
Right.
good, bad, and everything. He has no body. He has no vision. You don't see him. You can't hear him, but he's still there. He's in everything.
You say he has no vision.
Well,
Because the reason I question that is
Okay.
because doesn't the Bible teach us that God sees everything that we do?
okay, you're nitpicking at me.
Not
but
really.
yes.
I'm not trying to be rude.
Well, I mean, vision in the sense that we can't see him.
We can't see him.
We can't see
Right,
him.
he's
He can see-
invisible.
he sees everything.
Right. Right.
But
he knows everything.
But seeing is a human. We have eyes.
But he knows everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. He knows everything. He knows everything that's happening and has happened and will happen.
You have a son,
I have a son.
and I have two daughters.
Yes.
And one of my greatest joys of raising my two daughters was teaching them my beliefs about God. Did you have the same experience with your son, that you found joy in sharing your beliefs of God with him?
Oh yes, yes. But more than that, I had a moral obligation to do it. When I married into my husband's family, I was not welcomed, to say the least. But I met the most wonderful man I ever met was my husband's grandfather, Paul. Paul accepted me, but he educated me. He was the kindest man you'd ever want to meet, and he was a very Orthodox Jew. And by all rights, he should have, not even talked to me, but he did, and he would send me stuff. I got packages from him on a regular basis, and he treated me very well. But the only thing he really wanted from me was to continue the Jewish line, because my husband was the oldest son, and I had the only son born into the line.
Okay.
And this was very important to him, that his great-grandson would be Jewish, because that was very important. And I remember standing at my son's bar mitzvah,
How old was he at the time?
13.
Okay.
13. And he'd been through religious school, as much as I could get him to go. And he did a beautiful. It was a beautiful ceremony, and I remember standing up there because mothers stand up there too sometimes, and I remember thinking, Grandpa, I did it for you.
Right.
This, and I know that's not the end, but it was a moment that I had that I just said, I did this for you.
That's a good.
Yeah, it was my motivation. It wasn't my husband's motivation. It wasn't my son's motivation for sure, but it was mine because I made a promise to him that his great-grandchildren would be Jewish.
Your son, you said it wasn't his motivation. Was he a little standoffish on the faith, or did he embrace it to a certain age? Is he Jewish now? Does he celebrate the Jewish faith now?
He's dead now, so he's not celebrating.
No. I'm talking about your son.
Oh no, my son.
How was your son? How did your son react to the bar mitzvah?
He viewed it as the end of his religious training, and he was now in Jewish eyes. He was a man, and he made his own decisions after that.
After that, okay.
So he does not continue
Okay.
at all. He allows me to continue, and he puts up with me and all the stuff I do. But if he was left to his own devices, he would not be doing anything. And in that sense, I failed him. But you can only do so much.
When I've looked at the Jewish faith, what
Okay.
I've seen is what makes a person a Jewish person is that their mother was Jewish.
Well, that's Jewish law.
Was your mother Jewish?
No.
Okay.
I
So
know,
you
it's-
converted then, basically?
Yes.
Okay, I see. I didn't know that.
Well, they don't encourage conversions. They make it very difficult, and
Why is that, do you think?
because that's Jewish law. They're not looking for converts. They
They don't want to grow the
they-
field of
No,
flowers?
no. They're not like spreading the word. The role of the Jewish people is why God chose the Jewish people, and this comes from Seth. You remember Seth? He was like Adam and Eve's son or something.
Right?
Okay, Seth. Okay, Seth.
He was
and
the third
and there
boy.
there were other children too. Those other children became Gentiles, but God chose Seth's line and Abraham's line to become the Jewish people, and what their main purpose was to shine a light on God, to be an example to all the other people about what God was. They're not supposed to go and make them come and be Jews. They're supposed to just be a living example.
Be a light.
Be a light to the world.
But let's say now I'm a Christian.
Yes,
But
you
let's
are.
say that I'm looking at your lifestyle
Yes.
and I'm not a Christian, and I see you're happy, you're enjoying the worship of God, and I say to myself, I want to be in that group.
Well,
You said it's not easy to
it's
get
not
in
easy.
there.
You have to study.
But you're not going to say no. You're not going to say get out of here.
They might say it for the first 2 or 3 times to try to
Just to
discourage.
see, yeah, just to see
try
how-
to discourage you.
I had an art teacher like that. When I was in high school, I had an art teacher. She was the most mean teacher, but I loved art so much that I stuck it out and, I stuck with it. And I think that if I loved a religion enough and I see something that I really enjoy, I'm going to fight for it. I really,
Yes. Well, that's what I did.
yeah.
There are still people I have problems with who don't accept my conversion, but that's okay.
I accept your conversion.
Thank you.
Do you know much about the holidays we have?
Yes.
Yeah,
This is a good time to
name
talk
it.
about.
How many are there? Like
I think
they're
there's
big ones.
7 big ones,
7 big ones. Are there
I-
little ones?
probably.
Okay.
I'll talk about the ones everybody knows about.
Passover is probably the biggest, right?
Well, it depends on who you're talking to. Rosh Hashanah, we just had, which is the new year. From the first day of Rosh Hashanah, sundown, to Yom Kippur, which is 10 days later, that is a time of reflection, asking for forgiveness of I don't want to say sins, but transgressions to other people. And it's a time of evaluation for Jews to see how their life has been this last year and make corrections.
Okay.
And on Yom Kippur, we fast and we pretty much lament our weaknesses and ask for forgiveness.
Can I talk to you about the fasting part?
The fasting
I've
part,
done some
yes.
fasting in my life, and
Okay.
it's not enjoyable. I can tell you that much.
No.
Tell me about the fasting. Is it like all day? Is it?
Yeah, it's from sundown on one night to sundown the next night.
Okay, so
24 hours.
24 hours.
24 hours. But even
Can you drink water in that 24 hours?
all right, let's go into this. The rabbis, if you're a strict Jew and you're going to do this, you would not drink or eat anything for 24 hours.
Okay.
But there are, for every rule, there's an exception. If you have medical issues or, like I'm diabetic, I'm not going to fast for 24 hours. I'd probably die.
Yeah.
And other people have other issues, and there are exceptions to every rule.
Okay.
So you can't. It's not a one size fits all. But the most Orthodox people will fast and the whole time.
Okay.
So, and it's not, like you say, it's not fun.
It's not.
No. But
And all you think about is food the whole time you're fasting.
well, most of the time they're praying. So
I can pray and think about food too.
so we just went through Rosh Hashanah. We just had Yom Kippur, and the next one is Sukkot. Sukkot. It's the festival of booths.
Booths.
Booths. Booth. Booths. Sukkot. And what Sukkot represents, and it is representative of our time in the desert, the 40 years we spent in the desert. And during Sukkot, which I think, and don't ask me how many days it is, because I think it's 8.
8 days.
I might be wrong. They build a little shelter outside of your house.
Made out of wood?
It could be wood. It could be tablecloths. It could be anything, just like a tent.
Okay.
But the roof has to have so you can see the stars.
Okay.
You can put palm leaves on it. In Israel, they're very big about stripping the palm trees and putting palms on top of the sukkah. And you're supposed to spend all your time out there. You're supposed to eat, sleep, do all that.
What time of the year?
Well, it's happening next week.
When it's warm, right?
Yeah.
Not when
it's kind of think of a harvest festival.
Yeah.
So it's not real cold yet.
Okay.
But, some can be very elaborate. Some can be, very simple. And people go out and have all their meals outside. And then there's prayers. And
What is the reason they have this, building? Why couldn't they just be out there on the grass with nothing around them?
Well, because it's representative of the tents that we built during the 40 years in the desert.
Okay.
So it's a remembrance of that.
Okay, I see.
Okay. So I love Sukkot. That's my son's bar mitzvah was done during Sukkot, and we decorated the whole synagogue with festival type stuff, with harvest stuff. It was great. The next one that everybody knows about is Hanukkah.
It's around Christmas time. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing to do with Christmas.
But I know there's a dreidel. There's a menorah which has 8 candles.
Yes.
Right?
Well, there's a story for the menorah. Hanukkah is a holiday that represents the rededication of the Jerusalem temple after it was defiled by the Romans or the Greeks or whoever it was who did it. Probably the Greeks at that point. And when the Jews went in and took back the temple, and they had to rededicate it.
Okay.
There was no holy oil because they had holy oil. And so it would take 8 days to make the holy oil. But they found one little bottle of holy oil, probably a jug. Right? Think of a jug. And that jug, they lit the menorah, which is an eight-sided candle, in the temple. And that oil lasted for 8 days. It shouldn't have.
It shouldn't have lasted.
But it lasted. So we light candles, or
Okay.
we use oil. We can use oil too. We light candles in the menorah for 8 days to represent that great miracle that happened. In fact, you mentioned the dreidel, and what the dreidel has in Hebrew on all the 4 sides says a great miracle happened here.
Oh wow.
So
when it lands on one side, does that mean anything?
It's a game.
Okay.
It's a game, and kids have fun with it. It's just a game. But again, by what it says, a great miracle happened here. Well, they're playing the game. They're remembering that.
Remembering, right.
Yes. We give out Hanukkah Gelt, which is
Hanukkah Gelt?
Hanukkah Gelt.
How do you spell that?
G-E-L-T.
Okay, I thought you said G-U-I-L-T, like I'm guilty.
No, Gelt.
Hanukkah Gelt, and I was thinking, well, the Catholics give out
It's
Catholic Guilt.
Well, that's the Hanukkah Gelt was money
Gelt.
that they used to give to the kids, right?
Gelt. I don't think I've heard that word Gelt.
Gelt. It's just
But there's that fish called the gefilte.
It
That
has nothing-
sounds. Hey, that sounds similar.
Well, that's because it's all Yiddish. But it's Hanukkah Gelt is just money they would give to the kids, right?
Okay.
It's not Christmas presents type. It's just okay. So now you can buy Hanukkah Gelt, but it's chocolate-covered coins. It's little gold foiled coins, and I give them out everywhere during Hanukkah. I think it's a hoot. And Hanukkah here in the United States, because it's so close to Christmas, And Jews are always trying to assimilate everywhere they go. It's turned into like, I don't want to say a pseudo Christmas for Jews because it really isn't. But the kids do get gifts.
Okay.
And they should be minor and small and. But sometimes Jews get crazy. So.
I want to back up a little bit. You were talking about time in the desert. When the people were living in Israel, sorry, I'm saying this wrong. When the people were living in Egypt.
Yes, when there were slaves in Egypt.
Yeah,
yes.
Moses came and he convinced Pharaoh to let the people.
Moses didn't convince him. God convinced him.
God.
Think of the plagues.
Oh, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, God, Moses
didn't
do the plagues.
But if Moses wasn't there, God could still send the plagues, but Moses was used by God.
Yes.
And then I remember the story from the Old Testament where the Jewish people were in the desert.
And they wandered for 40 days.
40 years.
40 years.
40 years.
And what the 40 years was representative of generations. They had to get rid of the stinking generations from Egypt.
Stinking thinking.
And it's not that they were perfect, because remember they built when Moses was up talking to God to get the 10 Commandments, they were down there building a golden calf.
But he must have been there for a long time. You know what I'm saying?
I would say so. I would say so.
Because, I think on the first day they would have been expecting him to come back.
Yeah,
and then
probably.
they thought, well, we'll give him another day. He must have been there for a long time before because they had to gather all the metal.
Yes.
They had to build a fire. They had to find a way to melt it all down.
I know.
And then mold this calf.
Yes.
You know how big the calf was?
No, I have no clue.
I've seen drawings, and it looks like a real-sized cow. This is going back to that same period of time.
Okay.
What is manna?
Manna was the food that God gave the Israelites because they left without anything. They pretty much ran away without anything. So God provided food for them.
They were running away. They didn't have bags and food. They
very little food.
Yeah.
And when that ran out...
Did they bring their photo albums?
I don't know. I don't know. They had little etchings.
Yeah.
No, but when God would... Every morning, they would wake up and there'd be manna.
For 40 years?
Well, I'm not sure about the 40 years, but...
But what is the manna?
Manna was food.
But what is it exactly? It came down from the sky, right?
I don't know what it was. Do you know what it was?
I have no clue, but I thought it was like bread.
But one thing I know, it didn't last. So it would be there, and then it wouldn't last, and they'd have to get it the next day.
I've heard that if they gathered up for 2 days, it would get spoiled.
Yeah, it was just a daily thing for them.
Maybe it was in their imagination.
Well, they'd all be dead if it was. Anyway.
I know the Bible talks about quail. The Lord fed them quail. Do you know that?
That could have been that.
Yeah, that's another thing that God brought.
You read too much of Old Testament. I don't read it.
I don't read much of the Old Testament. That's why you're here.
I don't read a lot of Old Testament.
For those of you that can't see, we have a whole list of about 200 questions.
Oh, my God.
We've only touched on about 3 or 4 of them. Let's go to the next question, Dorothy.
Do you want one more holiday? You want to talk about Passover?
Sure.
Okay. Since we're in the desert with the manna already, Passover. Passover is the holiday that comes usually in the spring around, for your people's edification, be Easter. It has nothing to do with Easter. It's a representative remembrance that we are teaching our children that we were slaves, that life is not always good. And we have to remember this. And we have these are dinners in homes, but they can also be done in public.
Okay.
So a lot of the synagogues will run big Passover Seder. That's the word, the dinner.
Seder.
Seder. Passover Seder.
Does the word Seder have a root? Like, where does the word come from? Do you know? Okay.
You asked too many questions.
You're giving me this look like you don't know. So.
I have no idea.
All right, that's all right.
But it's a dinner that they have the first night, and then the Orthodox do a second one too. And during that dinner, we have a symbolic plate which has all the things that remind us of being in the desert. It has a lamb shank, it has a boiled egg, it has bitter herbs, it has salt water, it has a boiled egg. And all these are representative of things that happened during that time when we left. And matzah. Matzah bread is if you haven't seen one, it's such a big, large square cracker. It's unleavened bread is what it is. Because when the Jews were thrown out, finally, when Pharaoh said, "You can go, but go now," they didn't have time to let their bread raise. So they took everything they had and they ate the flatbread. And so during the week of Passover, we eat matzah. We don't eat bread in commemorate of that time in our history.
Now, for the people that are listening to this radio show, the Jewish people had to paint blood on the door.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to go into that information?
That is a very weird thing.
But that's
yes.
what the word Passover. Because
yes.
something is passing over.
Yes, the angel of death is passing over.
And the angel looked down.
And he would see the markings on the door, and he would skip that. And then he
Sure.
would kill everybody, all the firstborn sons of the Egyptians. It's kind of awful, but...
If you would just, what it's teaching us is it doesn't matter if we understand what God is asking us. Just do what He's asking.
Yeah,
He's
it's like
asking you to.
It's like when he wanted to kill Isaac. It's like God said, "Go kill your son," and he said, "Okay," and then God didn't let him. So it was
God stopped him.
Yeah, because he was willing. So
let's go to the next question.
Okay,
Dorothy, why do some people call themselves Jewish even if they don't believe in God? Or they don't go to the temple. And is Judaism a religion?
Yes. Judaism is a religion. There are people who are not religious, who don't believe in God, but still consider themselves Jews because their families were Jews.
Okay.
And there are a lot of Jews. We can go into there's Greek Jews, there's Spanish Jews, there's French Jews, there's Russian Jews, there's German Jews. So where are you really from? It's like... You're all Jews.
You could say there's New York Jews.
Yeah, there's New York. I'm a New York Jew.
Okay.
Sort
You
of.
said New Jersey.
Yeah, I was born in New York. I was born in Brooklyn. That's close
What
enough.
year? What age were you when you became a Jew?
Oh, I was in my 20s.
Okay.
20s.
And you were before that. What were you?
On a search for religion. I laugh when I say that because my mother was on a search for religion, and my brother and I joke about Church of the Week, and we went everywhere. And it was my poor brother. He's 6 years younger than I am, and he got the brunt of it because he had to go to Sunday school in all these different places, and I didn't have to because I was 6 years older, and more resistant. But he's now, I don't know what he is now. He's nothing now. I guess.
When was the last time you talked to him?
Last week. Oh no,
Okay.
2 days ago.
Okay.
2 days ago.
All right.
I like my brother. He lives here in town. I love my brother. Yes.
All right, so Dorothy, while you're here, I don't know anything about the Wailing Wall. That's another one of the questions that is on this list. We have about 200 on this list. Could you share with us what the Wailing Wall is?
Well, the Wailing Wall is the last wall that stands in the temple in Jerusalem, and
why do you call it the last wall?
Because it's the last only wall that's still remaining from the original temple.
Okay, so the temple has been destroyed.
It's destroyed, and there's one wall.
But the wall is left. There is a wall left.
There's a wall
Why
left.
was that wall not destroyed?
Who knows?
Okay.
Everything else was. So they didn't. Who knows? It's a big wall. Have you seen pictures?
I've seen photographs.
Yeah. And they refer to it as the Wailing Wall because it's a place of sadness because of the destruction of our temple.
Okay.
And Jews go there and they pray there.
They pray.
They pray there. And they stick little prayers in between the rocks.
What happens after time? Do those prayers get removed?
I don't know. I doubt it.
Okay.
I mean, they just probably deteriorate in time.
That's interesting.
Now, the interesting thing is above that Wailing Wall is land that is controlled by the Muslims.
Okay.
And they have a temple. I don't know what to call it, a temple. I want to call it a temple up there.
Like a mosque?
A mosque, thank you.
Okay.
They have a mosque up there, and they think that's the place that Muhammad went to heaven.
Okay.
So they're very protective of that place.
Of that land.
And so Jews can't go there. They can't pray there. They can go there, but they can't pray there. Jews are always going up there and trying to pray.
Have you been to the Wailing Wall?
No.
Have you been to Israel?
No.
Not at all.
I wanted to go desperately. But, I'm older, and this unrest in Israel is just frightening.
And it's constant, too.
And it's constant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who knows when it'll ever end?
But it's one of my things I really have in my life would have liked to have done is gone to Israel.
Is there music at the Wailing Wall? Do people bring instruments and play and
I don't think
sing?
so. I've never seen it. Other than, like, singing prayers.
Okay.
And they might do that.
But without instruments?
But no instruments,
okay.
no.
Okay. I could just picture a guy with a
No.
guitar
Well,
just
I'm not saying there
singing a song.
I'm not saying there is never a guy with a guitar because, there's all sorts of different flavors of Jews, so to speak.
Do Christians ever go to the Wailing Wall and
pray?
pray?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they do, but they could.
But they're welcome.
Oh, I wouldn't go welcome. That might be a strong word. But remember, it's also kept separate from men and women, so there'll be that.
Okay.
And it's very interesting that I'm sure it's a tourist place. People go, but it's just I don't know.
Well, listen, we're running out of time, so
Okay.
we need to wrap this up. And I just want to say thank you for being here.
It was fun.
Yeah, thank you. And I really hope that the audience really got something out of this. I know that this is a Christian radio station. This is a Christian show. But our roots as Christians come from the Jewish faith. So I just want to say thank you very much for being here. And thank you guys for listening to this radio show.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you for being here. Thank you, and have a good evening. I hope to catch you on another episode of The Prodigal, maybe next week. Have a good evening, and go in peace.
This program is sponsored by The Prodigal, helping families thrive in Christ. Be sure to check out our website for more information at theprodigalshow.com. And also, feel free to call anytime, day or night if you have any questions or concerns. That's 214-446-3744. That's 214-446-3744. Thank you, and have a blessed day.